Hi friends, this is Sarah from Crafting and Relaxing. Welcome. Thank you so very much for joining me. This is the process video that I made of the Smash Our Stash project. The theme for the month for Smash Our Stash was strings and twine, and I decided to make a journal. So I just thought I would make some video along the way and share it with you. I had these folded up papers that were from Noni's trash bin, my friend's trash, and I had chosen it and folded it months ago and left it in the bin. And then I realized I had this wrapping paper that I just loved that my mom gave me. Now, granted, not my color, but gorgeous, thick, lush, embossed wrapping paper. And I thought, well, it should be a journal cover. So I decided to make it the journal cover for these papers. So I was using this paper that I had sitting around and also the pages that I couldn't figure out what to do with. And I just went with it and used all sorts of textiles. So here I have cut it, and it's hard to tell, but there's a white mailing envelope in there, a 9x12. And I'm gluing it to that. And it doesn't have to be a new one. It can be a recycled one. These were from a bank that closed, or it was some sort of misprint. I don't know, but there's a bunch of them. And I'm using glue stick and art glitter glue. I don't know why. I think just because I was a little lazy to spread the art glitter glue around so well. Just laying it down there, and I've mitered the corners so that you get that clean edge. And then I tried to find a piece of paper that sort of went with it. I really loved the bold polka dot that I had, but I just didn't feel like it went. Here, I think I should start folding I think I should have folded this cardstock before I glued it together. I should have formed it into the shape and encouraged it more. It was very thick cardstock and it kind of fought me. So you can watch that and see in a minute and learn from it. I don't usually fold the things the way I want. I glue them together. And this, you've probably seen me do this a couple times. I folded the edges over and then I cover all that up with fabric or paper on the inside. And I'm using a rag because the art glitter glue is smushing out a little. Lots of times I use Kleenex too, whatever's handy. I'm using my bone folder, but I'm being a little bit gentle because that embossed wrapping paper, I mean, it's literally like you took an embossing folder to it. It has some texture, so I don't want to smooth that out all the way. And again, you can tell I've sped this up a lot because it was boring to watch. I should have, see, the paper is fighting me and won't fold. So I'm folding it back and forth and playing with it and just trying to break down those fibers enough that it will fold without giant ripples and messing things up. And I think it helps to work things a little bit while it's wet. I don't know. Maybe if you have more experience, you would say, no, let it dry flat and then it'll fold beautifully. I'm not sure. But I kind of fiddle and loosen things up. Then I let it sit. Depending on what I'm doing, I might walk away. But here I was looking at how the papers fit. Then I went through and got out a bunch of ribbon, right? Because it was about ribbons and twine and strings, all that. So I started digging and looking for things that would work. And surprisingly, I had a ton of pink and rainbow and all sorts of twines that I wouldn't have used. They would just sit in my stash. I have lots and lots of blue, but I'll use those. These other ones, I hadn't. Like you'll notice the rainbow rickrack, that package wasn't even open. Oops, don't store those the way I do because that did not work well. The bin is too shallow and it's gotten too heavy and they fall over. But, you can learn from it. Then I was trying to think of all sorts of interesting ways to use strings and twine, and I'm not really into tying bows because I'm not good at it. And so I had a lot of things in here already. You can see that I was sewing off to the side when I wasn't filming. So I stitched ribbon onto strips of paper and I let them hang out the ends because I thought I wanted it messy. And then I had that sheer ribbon that was just cute as can be, and I decided to glue that to a page. And then I got it in my head somehow that twine should be woven through die cuts. And I looked around and I was looking for a a fairly thin one, so I went with embroidery floss. And I looked at the wall of where I keep my dies and found things that had holes in them. I thought about flower petals and you could poke holes in them, but I just decided to get some really busy dies out and find things that already had holes. And this one is a double whammy because it takes the string, I stitched it through a flower, and I made a pocket with it. And I don't know that I've really used this die much, so I fiddled with it. It's not really meant to cut a pocket out. I think it's meant to, it's like a negative, positive, reverse thing. So I had to use the scissors to trim the edge of it the rest of the way to make it an actual pocket. Then my apologies, I'm doing all my stitching off camera, but I'm just going through the holes on that flower. It had like 5 or 6 holes around it, and going across the back, doing whatever I have to do so that on the front it looks adorable and I've stitched through each one of those holes. Then I got confused again and had to stop and look at it because I didn't want the stitching on the edge of the pocket where I was going to slide things in and out. So I had to look at how it was going to sit on the page again and make sure I was stitching in a reasonable area. There we go. See, I'm stitching down in the corner where it's going to be glued down. You probably wouldn't want to do a bunch of stitching on the edge of a pocket where you're going to go in and out like this hand lumpy in the back kind of thing, because it would catch, your paper would catch. In some areas I went over it a couple times because I was trying to get the look I wanted on the front. I didn't care at all how the back looked. Again, my apologies. When I make these videos, sometimes I forget you're watching. I'm just crafting and having a great time and stitching along, and I'm even holding it up to try and make sure you can see it, but then I don't check the camera to see if I'm actually in frame. I just selected these things based on color of these papers that were already chosen, and that's how the whole thing came together. I'm not really a pastel lover, not a pink person, so it was great to try and use up some of that stuff in my stash. I haven't purchased most of my ribbon. A lot of it was given to me. See, I'm just stitching away, and it takes forever. It's tedious. So if you watched and thought, how'd she do that? Yeah, I literally got needle and thread and went, okay, let's fiddle around. You could cross stitch on your paper. You can do whatever you want. You could use cross stitch fabric to make strips for tuck spots or pockets or whatever you want in your journals. There are no limits. Then I'm just tying a good knot on the back so I can make sure that it doesn't come undone. And I think the biggest thing you have to remember is you're sewing on paper, so you can't pull too hard. You have to be pretty gentle when you're tying your knots and that kind of thing. It's a little tedious, but I think it turned out kind of cute. And it's especially a fun way. Maybe you don't have a lot of supplies and you're tired of using the same die in a certain way or doing the same thing with it. Well, there's a new idea. And if you have a flower and it doesn't have holes in it, take your needle and poke some holes in it and then stitch through. Or you could just make the holes as you go. And then I'm just going to glue that little tiny tedious little die down so that it's a cute little pocket. I almost put it on the wrong page. Not that there's a wrong page, but it went with the lace on that page. I was having fun. And you can see these pages are all different sizes, and there's not really a lot of rhyme or reason here. This was just another, I want to try this. And I have no idea where my tiniest hole punch is. It is gone. It's been missing for quite a while. Hopefully it hasn't gone the way of my original wooden ruler. Then I'm looking through the bin because these are really low quality papers, and I'm trying to find something that will die cut nicely, and also that I don't use a large piece, right? Because I don't know why. I'm being really careful about conserving the trash. It's pretty cute the way it is too. I could have just glued it on, but the whole point of Smash Our Stash was to use string. So I went through and I picked yellow because the butterfly was pink and the paper was gray and I was trying to brighten it up. Then I tied it off so that it wouldn't come undone over time or move. And again, just be careful when you're tying, because if you yank on that knot, it's going to tear through the paper, especially if you're using inexpensive cardstock like this. Then I went, okay, yep, that's about enough. And when I looked at it, I wished I would have put a little more curve, maybe punch the holes closer together so there was more action in the string, more zigging and zagging, but it's cute. It's kind of like a string on a kite. And there we go. Another way to use string. I just kept going. Okay, then I had this die with all these fun little shapes, and I was going to weave the string through it. First, I cut it on this blue paper. It was too cheap and too thin, and I was sure that I wouldn't be able to stitch through it without damaging it and then expect it to stick on a page, so I gave up on that. Then I went and got some white. I'm pretty sure it's 110-pound scrap, ran it through, didn't cut well enough. If you have an intricate die and a die cutting machine that's maybe not the strongest in the world, run it back and forth like this. There you go. Now the little things will pop out and I can actually use this one. And I think this is 110 pounds, so it is excessive for this project. It just happened to be what I grabbed out of my scraps. 65-pound would work, 80-pound would be better, 100, it just depends. If you only have 65-pound, go for it. Do it anyway. This might be the kind of thing that if you're going to do a bunch of them, see, I'm just curling the needle through and coming back out and going, yep, I like it. It might be a good project to do a bunch of them while you're watching TV because it takes a while to do this. And I'm standing at the counter instead of sitting, and I'm too lazy to clear a spot. And then again, I thought to keep it from moving or coming undone, I would have to tie a knot. You could maybe try dots of glue, but I just didn't feel like that was going to work. And for the amount of time I spent putting that stupid string on there, I wanted to be sure it stayed. So I'm just trying to get a knot that's going to lay fairly nice and be cute. That's all I'm trying to do. And it is, the string I used on that one is a little thicker than embroidery floss, and it wasn't laying down. There we go. So that was another idea with string around the edge. It's a little hard to see because it's orange and white, and I used a white die cut. A contrast might have been better. Maybe black paper or black thread or something. Then I decided I better glue that on because it was dainty, and I worked on it a while, and I didn't want to lose it. And I hadn't given a lot of thought to what I was going to do with it. I probably could have left part of it loose as a tuck spot or something, but I just wasn't sure it would hold up. You know, the first time you took something in and out of it, it might mess it up. So some super tedious gluing. Don't use too much because it'll just ooze all out and then you'll have to clean it up. There we go. Push that on there. Then we sped it back up. Had to clean up the glue a little, of course. And then I'm flipping through and trying to decide, okay, do I want to back that? Is it going to be boring just that way? But I just really liked that ribbon on a white page. And I think if I had put it on any color or anything else, the pattern on the ribbon wouldn't have shown as well. And again, I left all the ends sticking out. If that is not your style, you can always trim them right to the edge of the page. But I was thinking that's the emphasis of this project. All those strings and ribbons sticking out, I thought were pretty fun. And I did the same thing with the lace. That blue page was sticking out too far, and I thought, well, a torn page behind that lace will be fun. No rules, no plan. I don't have a formula that says I do 3 of these and 4 of these, or I only tear this way. Or if I had to guess, I would guess I only tear when it's easy to do with my right hand, but that's not really a formula. That's just lack of skill in my left hand. I realized there weren't any tip outs. I didn't have anything like that going on, and I thought that would be fun. So I grabbed a piece of scrap paper, put some ribbon on it. Then I'm going to step off to the side and sew it on there with my sewing machine. And I just laid it down and stitched it. If you need a little help, you could use clips or pins or a couple dots of wet glue, but then wait for it to dry. Don't use like a real double-sided adhesive under there and then run that through your sewing machine. Just zigzagged it. It's kind of messy. Then I'm going to use washi tape and a bit of glue to glue it to the page as a tip out. You can do this on the top of the page. You can do it on the side of the page. Sometimes I just do it in the middle of the page, and you can write behind it and journal if you want. You can decorate them heavily. You can just leave them completely plain like this one. There are no rules. Just be sure you don't get the tape so tight that it can't flip closed. That's really the only rule. And I have found that if I just use washi tape, it kind of curls up. So I put a little bit of glue. Here, I was using this rainbow rickrack. It was white on the back, just plain white, and I didn't like that. So this one I did cut to fit the page. And it's kind of a large size rickrack. It was pretty fun. I'm guessing I bought it at a creative reuse store. Rainbow stuff is never something I seek out. And it is in no way a political statement. It is just, I like blue and I don't want all those colors with my blue. So you won't see me use rainbow and pink a lot. This is a very unusual project. Here I have the blue lace and I'm trying to figure out, what could I do with it that's different? And in the end, I just gave up and zigzagged it flat to the page. And now I have one piece of ribbon sticking out the side because I did the tip out and some random things outside the top. And I decided it's probably time to figure it all out and sew it together. So when you sew your pages in, this is when you have to decide, do you want the purple one at the top or the bottom? How do you like how they line up? This is sort of your last chance to move things around and be sure that you get them in a spot where they will get 2 holes stitched through them. You won't see me use like a 1-inch wide piece in a journal because it would only get 1 hole through it and it would be a little bit sloppy. And if I have something that's kind of narrow, I'll move it around and try and get it through too. This thing was fighting me. I don't know if it's because I had so much paper. I think the bulk of all of the ribbon made it hard. And I've talked about that before, the pros and cons of should you stitch your journal together and then decorate it or decorate it and then stitch it. I love being able to run things through the sewing machine when the pages are loose. But at this moment, I was like, ugh. I couldn't get it to like cram down in the crack. And I use a foam book, not an actual whatever it's called, bookmaking thing. So in the end, I think I got it. And then I realized I hadn't threaded my silly needle, so I wasn't actually ready to poke the holes. There we go. I didn't use a template. I do have a journal making tutorial series in a playlist. So if you've never sewed a journal together, do not learn from this video. I mean, I got it done, but it probably wouldn't be real easy to follow the logic. And these sped up ones are more for you to see and get ideas and brainstorm than true tutorials. Because it's odd. I think I tied the knot like 3 times. Can I not count? I mean, I usually double knot them. And then when I was looking at it, I realized I wanted more stuff to come out the sides. So far, I just have the 1 piece of ribbon. Then I decided I was going to do another one of those tuck spot things with the sewing around the edge. And this one I did at the top of the page, just for variation. You would be surprised how much will tuck up at the top of the page and stay in. When I first started making journals, I thought it was like rocket science or, how do you make them stay or pockets have to be at the bottom. No, a pocket can be anywhere you want. It can be a circle in the middle of a page, anything. So again, I'm just fiddling. And again, I would recommend do a couple of them while you're watching TV. Then I tied some knots behind it and trimmed it down. And that is it. Slow going, but not hard. If you've ever threaded a needle and sewed anything or cross-stitched or embroidery, I'm not really an embroidery person. I mean, it's just not really a talent I have. I guess I haven't tried. And you could do, if you're a cross-stitcher and you wanted, you could do cross-stitching. You could do French knots in a bunch of those spots, whatever you want. I just made thread go in the holes. That was the extent of it for me. Okay, so that is it for this process video. If you haven't seen the actual Smash Our Stash video, be sure to watch it because you'll see a flip through. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.